So, a while back, I did a video on Nickelodeon shows, and it actually got the most views any of my videos have gotten in a long time. In fact, it may have the most views of any video I've done. But in that video, I talked about various Nickelodeon shows that I grew up with from childhood in the 90s, such as Rocko's Modern Life, Ren and Stimpy, Hey Arnold, and of course, one of my favorite series of all time, The Adventures of Pete and Pete. So this video is just going to be talking about that show specifically. So for those who don't know, Pete and Pete, full title, The Adventures of Pete and Pete, was a series from the 90s that aired in Nickelodeon about two brothers, and they were both named Pete. It's a comedic drama type show. It's very surreal. And basically, it's basically about the problems of childhood and adolescence as told through a very surreal, absurdist lens. It's taking the everyday issues and blowing them up to Seinfeldian huge levels of absurdity to mirror the real life feelings of absurdity, aimlessness, and confusion that kids feel when actually growing up. So it's basically a very satirical take on childhood, adolescence, and suburbia, as well as society, and it's a celebration of oddballs and misfits and the things that make us wonderfully unique. But anyways, the show is about a normal family. They have a dad who's kind of neurotic, a mother has a metal plate in her head. Young Pete is this kind of adventurous, boisterous, daredevil type that's not afraid of anything. And, he likes to rebel and play by his own rules. Older Pete is more of a subdued kind of narrator character. In fact, he narrates the show, like in voiceovers, where he describes everything that's going on. And it's kind of Wonder Years-esque, only if the Wonder Years was a very absurdist, surreal show with characters that, drive an ice cream truck but always wear a plastic frosty thing on their head, or a character named Artie, the strongest man in the world, who has super strength and can beat up the ocean. These are some things on the show. Or a math teacher that's obsessed with numbers and mathematical equations, who ends up dating a caretaker of a field, as well as the high school mascot being a squid. I mean, these ought to give me kind of an idea of what the show is. But more than that, it definitely, watching it as an adult, captures the nostalgic feel of what it's really like to grow up as a kid. And when I was watching it, I was very young. I was probably about Little Pete's age or younger watching it. And so, when I was that young, I didn't take into consideration that this was deep. I didn't know what deep was. I just took it on a surface level. This is an interesting show about weird things going on in these kids in these strange situations. But I didn't watch it for several years because I just didn't have any access to it. And then as an adult, a few years ago, I watched it on the internet. And by this point, I was in my 20s, and I got it. I was like, oh my god, this show is not only great, but it's so much better than, I remember, because I didn't appreciate it, because I was too young to appreciate it. And now as I watch it as an adult, I love it. And I watched it several times since, and I even bought the 2 seasons. The show ran for 3 seasons, but however, the first 2 are the only ones that have been released. For some reason, the 3rd season has never been released on DVD anywhere, and can only be found online. The show's creators have said that there has been DVDs pressed, but just through some fluke, I guess through contractual problems or something with Nickelodeon, they were never released to the buying public. But you can watch them online. In fact, these DVDs were quite expensive, actually. But they were definitely worth it, considering this is literally in my top 10 favorite shows of all time list. So I had to buy it. So just to kind of give you some plot episodes to kind of give you an idea of what this show's like. The first episode was called King of the Road, and it's about how their dad is obsessed with trying to make good time. And he even gets into a competition with this other family that's traveling to the same place, and they're trying to rival each other. And it just goes to the absurd links that the stereotypical dad will go to have the best of the best, have the best looking car and the best novelty license plate, and the most luggage piled on top of the car. It's great. There's an episode where Big Pete becomes a range boy on a golf course, and he has to go collect the balls that all the people like hit from the driving line. And he starts wearing a mascot, and people start pelting with the golf balls. It's there's an episode where I think in either end of season 1 or season 2, there's an episode where little Pete decides to stop going to bed. Like, he hates having a curfew. So in rebellion, him and the rest of the children of the street start staying up all night, and like they see how long they can go with not going to sleep, and eventually they start falling out. Like, they're so like tired, they're just deliriously just falling out, and and little Pete is adamant about making his point of being like, fuck you, Mom, I'm not going to bed. And at the end of the episode, he does ultimately realize that, like, there's a reason why we go to sleep. It's important to have curfews so we won't be tired, so we won't, we won't be exhausted. We can think and function. Because by the end of it, he's a zombie, and he's like, he's hanging in there like, I'm gonna do it, that kind of thing. That's great. Another important character that features prominently in the show is Ellen, who is Big Pete's friend, and as she is described, she is a girl who is a friend, but not a girlfriend. And like a lot of the plot lines with older Pete are kind of with her and their kind of relationship, of how they're very close friends, and there's even been times when they indicate a romantic interest between them, but it's never fully like there. Like, they never like. I think they do at the very, very end of the show, but I think throughout most of it, they're not quite will they, won't they, and that's just a whole other can of worms of adolescence that's expressed in the show. But more than that, the thing that I really want to talk about, besides just kind of like the general plots of some episodes and like why I like it, is the thing I really it captures that feeling. It captures like this timelessness. Like, it was made in the 90s, but it doesn't feel like a 90s show. It doesn't feel like it's any set era. Anyone from any decade can watch this. That's amazing, actually, how timeless it is, how well it stands up. Because a kid now who is little Pete's age could watch it and appreciate it just as much as a teenager could watch it and appreciate it. For the same reasons that, when I grew up, I appreciated it. And it's one of those I wish I would have watched when I was actually going through adolescence again, because I would have really, really related to it. But there's this timelessness to it and the universality to like these characters, and they're all likable and they're all interesting. There's really weird characters. There's interesting characters. There's like genuine pathos and ennui in some episodes of this kind of bygone part of our lives. And the writing is fantastic. The characters are really great. They're very likable. The writing's weird, but it's still grounded to where it's not just this absurd thing that you can't get into. The direction of the episodes is great. So all the more highly recommend it. And I don't want to spoil anymore, so I want to leave the video with this saying, just watch it, and hopefully you'll love it as much as I did. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next video.